Alright everyone, welcome back to Garage Story. So in today's video, we are going to fix up the Yazoo Kees 42-inch cut zero turn that has a Kawasaki engine on it. We've had it for maybe a couple of years. We saw some horses when we picked it up. That was kind of interesting, and that's not related. In this video, we are going to try to get to the very end of all the issues as best we can and get the mower sold. Spoiler alert, we do get it sold. This is the last video on the Yazoo Kees unless somebody returns it, which hopefully is not going to happen. So anyway, let's get out there and let's go break a wrench. All right, so the Yazoo Kees has been having a lot of issues with the fuel system, just not quite running right. I've done several things to it, most notably cleaning the carburetor about a gazillion times. I don't know how many that is, but it's a lot. Let's begin by seeing if we can swap out the fuel pump and see if that makes a difference. And this time, let's use a brand new fuel pump. I think I've already used other used fuel pumps, but we'll try putting a brand new fuel pump and see if that makes the difference that we are looking for. All right, new fuel pump is installed. I left the discharge unhooked. Let's crank the engine and see if we get some fuel coming out there. Definitely not looking like a ton of fuel. It is a steady stream, so we should be okay. Let's see if we can fire this thing up. Give it some choke. Ooh, that was nice. All right, let's see if it will throttle up and stay running. All right, same issue as we had before. It would run and run and then it suddenly dies out, almost like it's running out of gas, which there's fuel in my fuel filter. I don't think I'm out of gas. So we seem to have the same issue and not exactly sure what it is. I don't know, I've got to think that it's a lack of fuel in the carburetor, but I'm not sure. So it's possible that the problem is something really simple, like my float's not set right, so it's running out of fuel basically, and it's burning what's in the float bowl and not getting replaced as fast as it's going out. So it could be something like that, not really sure. Been through the carburetor several times. We have here a replacement carburetor, and we have here someone who's tired of messing with this carburetor. Maybe I just don't know what I'm doing. Actually, that's probably really quite possible. This is probably one of the first Kawasaki engines I have messed with a lot, and I like it in some ways, and in other ways, it's been a little bit of a tumultuous journey. I'm not gonna throw out that other carburetor, at least not yet. You know me, I hardly throw out anything. But I'm gonna see if putting this carburetor in fixes the issue. If this works, then really the only issue that this mower has is the seat, I think. That just fell down when I started unscrewing this. I have a feeling that this was my assistant that did that. One of the little assistants. Yeah, this all looks really good. Sometimes I put a little penetrating oil on a gasket to soften it up. And we're done. Now we just need to see if it runs. All right, well now we need to see if we have enough battery juice left to get this thing to fire up, because I'm probably gonna have to crank it for a little bit to get the new carburetor filled with fuel, and then we'll actually see how well it runs. And as we recall, the primary issue is this: it would run fine at an idle, but at full throttle it would die out after maybe a minute or so of running. So, okay. Starts right up and then immediately stops. I drop it down to idle, crank it. It doesn't start. Put it back to full choke. It feels like this is exactly the same problem I had with this engine like a year or two ago when I first got it. It's a little bit frustrating. That's worse with the new carburetor than it was with the old carb. That's a little disappointing. Okay, if it really is a fuel problem, if I spray this in there, it should pick up. We're not getting enough fuel. So, am I dealing with a carburetor issue, or am I dealing with an issue coming to the carburetor with fuel? That's what I'm not sure about. I know fuel can get through, but maybe it's just not enough fuel. Maybe I need to replace my fuel lines from the tanks. So I'm gonna try to rig up a gravity feed fuel system to see if we can eliminate these gas tanks and fuel pump. I'm probably just gonna try to tie into the fuel filter back here. I know that we should have enough of gravity feed. I may try to bypass the fuel filter as well, but let's see what we can do. I noticed when I was taking the fuel filter off of the old line, where it attached into the old line, it was really hard to get it out. I think the old fuel line may be shot. Anyway, so I bypassed the fuel pump here, put some gas in here. It's wired on here to this cage here and around this fill neck. And I know that cage is close to something rotating, but the way it's wired, it should be fine. I'm not really worried about it. So this is eliminating the old fuel system and also a fuel pump. I actually fired it up because I thought the camera was running, and it seems to be working a lot better. This is the idle, no choke. See if it fires, then I'll go back to choke if it doesn't. Needs choke. Besides, the battery's starting to get a little tired. So we ran that for, I don't know, about 4.5 minutes there maybe, and didn't really have any issues. Either it's a partially deteriorated and collapsed fuel lines, or it's still somehow the fuel pump not getting enough fuel through there. I really think it's probably not the brand new fuel pump. The only other thing that would be affecting that is if there's not enough vacuum coming off of the engine to actuate the fuel pump, which, I don't know, the engine runs pretty good. I don't really think that's the issue. So I'm thinking I probably need to replace my fuel lines. Not the easiest to get to up under here. All right, we're making headway. It actually ran. I'm curious, I'm gonna swap out the carburetor back to the original carburetor and see if it runs the same or even better with the original carburetor compared to the aftermarket. And I know how to swap out carbs now really quickly. I've done it a few times. So. Okay, so I didn't get it on camera, but it ran great with the original carburetor on there. And I actually was able to go mow some grass with this thing. Yeah, and it did really well. So, that's exciting. I think it is going to be the fuel system that's the issue. Like the hoses or plugs in the tank somehow. So, I think it's time to go ahead and dive in here. So, I think I'm gonna need to take this nut off from my selector valve in some way so that thing can go back through there because the hoses are on it. Then if I pull the hoses off at the bottom of each tank, I may be able to pull the whole assembly out. So let's get after it. We need to get this done. Gosh, we just need to get this done. We need to get taken care of. Not looking forward to it. This may not be as hard as I thought. Oh, you know what? I think there's gas in the tank. I didn't think about that. How are we gonna get it out of there? Wow, that took longer than I thought it would. My siphon pump takes forever to pump gas out with. I'm starting to like that transfer pump less and less and think more fondly of easier ways to do it. So All that aside, now we are ready to go ahead and take those hoses off. I really hope this is the problem. Let's keep moving forward. I'm tired now. Oh, that was easy. Let's go get the other side. Oh, that feels stuck on there a little more. Wow, that made it really easy. Nice. Okay, so now the fuel system should be completely disconnected. It's just a matter of getting it threaded out of here. I think I have a picture of how it fits through here. Take another picture or two just to make sure I know. Let's cut these zip ties here. I'm working with one hand. There we go. We got it. Now I just need to match these hose lengths, replace them, and clean out the valve. Should be pretty straightforward. I really hope this works. These hoses are not all the same, so at least one of these has been replaced, or two of these have been replaced. I think these look pretty much the same. I mean, none of these lines look super bad. I don't know, I'm not sure exactly. I'm gonna try to flush this valve out with some carb cleaner, and then we'll start reassembling. All right, let's measure our fuel lines and cut new ones and get this back together. Alright, that was pretty easy. Now I'm going to try to clean out the bottoms of the tanks, basically those fittings, just make sure they're clear, and then try to reinstall this. Alright folks, a quick reiteration of what's happened. We have thoroughly cleaned the carburetor and verified that it runs with this carburetor on a gravity fed system. We have a new fuel pump, we have new fuel lines, we have a new fuel filter, we have flushed out the tanks. We just need this thing to run well now. If this does not work with this setup, that means that somehow the fuel is not getting, enough fuel is not getting into the carburetor, which would be, gosh, there's not a lot of things left. It would be potentially the fuel pump is bad even though it's brand new, or it's not getting enough vacuum to operate it. Hopefully that's not the issue. Hopefully everything runs fine now, but we're gonna find out. I'm probably gonna have to crank the engine a while before it starts up. Here goes, I don't know what. Okay, so it started running off the fuel that was in the carburetor, and then it leaned out and died. While that happened, the fuel filter was dry, but it started pulling fuel in, but that fresh fuel hasn't made it in yet. So should be able to crank it a little bit more and get it to start up again. Okay, so I am going to let it idle for a while, then I'm going to do the real test, which is putting it to full throttle and seeing if it will stay running indefinitely at full throttle. And if it does, then we have achieved our goal. I am noticing a little bit of stuff coming into the fuel filter. I don't know if it's water or what. Could just be remnants of carb cleaner and whatnot that has gone through the system. That's what the fuel filter is there for, though, to catch stuff, although I'm not sure what it does with water. Anyway, we'll see if it fires back up at idle. Hooray! Yes! I think we fixed it! This has been so long in coming. That was a pain. Now let's go use it and see how it goes. And hopefully report back. Yes, I'm so excited! That's not good. So I got like 4 minutes into mowing and then it died. Actually, a little bit before that, I noticed it stuttered down at the far end of the field and I immediately flipped it over to the other tank. And that seemed to help out for just a little bit. Okay, it looks like I'm getting sludgy stuff out of the tank still. My fuel filter looks not the greatest. It's kind of orange. The fuel shouldn't be orange right now. I'm thinking I need to back drain my fuel filter again and keep running. It may take a while. I guess there's just a lot of loose stuff in the tank that's getting passed through. Okay, so the first tank is not completely empty. It's very close to it though, so it could be if I was on a hill, maybe it started drawing a little bit of air or something. This sludge in the filter may be from the second tank. So it could be that I was starting to run out, swapped over tanks, and then started getting that sludge from the bottom of the tank in there. Even though they don't look that dirty. It looks like water. It doesn't smell very good. All right, let's see if we can get her to start and run on the right tank now. We're not getting any fuel. I wonder if I need to swap out my fuel filter now. Unless my fuel line got plugged again. If I pull this off and blow through it, can I hear gurgling in there? Yep, definitely felt gurgling. Let's see if I can blow back through here as well. That is really interesting. I blew through there and likely built up pressure in here, so as soon as I took my mouth off, then fuel came squirting back through. Not into my mouth, but it's like I built up pressure inside the tank that then pushed the gas back out. That was strangely effective, kind of odd. And let's see if we can get prime and get fire. Oh no, hope we don't have water in the carburetor. All right, let's pull this off real quick, make sure we're pumping fuel out the pump. Okay, we are. All right, flood it. Hey. I think we might have some water we're working out. All right, ran great there, except it died right there at the very end here when I was parking it. I think it's running out of gas again. I think there's just a little stuff flushing through the fuel system, trying to get that all cleaned out, some residue from the tanks and whatnot that's getting stirred up by sloshing it around in there, because I didn't take the tanks off. But it's working really good, way better than it was. Hunting pretty bad. I think it's got a pocket of water in the carburetor, maybe in the pilot jet or something, which is why it's not idling well. Before I think it was gonna die at idle. It seems like it may be working its way out. Gosh, I don't know. It ran really great for a while, like, 20 minutes. And it still runs, but yeah, got a little bit of a hunt in there. I'm starting to wonder if I got a bad batch of gasoline or something, because I just put more gasoline in here. Well, first I emptied out the fuel filter and hose and stuff. Then I put more gasoline in there, fired it up. I actually didn't turn on the fuel for a little bit. So this was dry, and then all of a sudden I turned on the fuel and it sucked a ton in there really quickly. I don't know if you can see how nasty that is. So what you can see is the top of the water down below the gas. The gas is clear on top. Where's the water coming from? Like, what is that? This is annoying. Let's do a little experiment. I cleaned out this old glass jar here. So let's put some gas in this jar, see what it looks like. Yep, I don't see any separation here. Okay, maybe there's some condensate inside my fuel tanks or something. Okay, so here's my fuel filter. I don't know if you can see this well. Look, it looks like there's only fuel in the bottom, but no, there are two totally different levels of fluid in there. Yep, that's all watery junk there in the bottom. The fuel is the clear stuff. You can see the top surface and the bottom surface. It's not what you want. The gasoline is set here for a little bit and it still looks fine, so that is a good sign. Hopefully, if I keep draining the water out of the fuel filter, this thing will clear up and run like a top, purr like a kitten. No, the way it's supposed to. Alright, I think we're getting really close to the end of the issues with this thing, but I think I need to go ahead and clean the carburetor one more time because I think something got stuck in my pilot jet. Whether it's water or a piece of debris, I don't know. But it's not idling as well as it was. It does still run fine at full throttle pretty well. Let's just do it. I don't think I'm going to film this unless there's something interesting because I've taken this thing apart so many times now. I'll let you know how it goes. That's the way it's supposed to idle. Nice and smooth. None of this going up and down. So we fixed whatever the problem was. Yeah, it's been idling there for, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes now. I mowed some first at full throttle because a little bit of water, it looked like it came through the fuel system again. I don't know where it comes from. Maybe it just separates out of the gas. I think it runs really good now. It's still an old mower with a few quirks, but it's running really good now. So hopefully we can sell it. All right, I have someone I think coming in just a few minutes to come look at the Yazoo Kees. So we've got everything pretty well sorted out on it. It's time to sell it. It's listed at $2,000 and I'm getting interest in it, which is exciting. Just because of the nature of how much money it is and whatnot. I think I'm gonna go ahead and let them cold start the mower. I wish I hadn't parked it here. I don't like to have my mowers out here in the mower junkyard. I like to have them down by the driveway ready for someone, but I was at work today and didn't really have an opportunity until now. I got home just a little bit before they were coming over. But I feel like that's being kind of more honest and upfront. Like, if you spend money on this, you know who I am and what I do. We'll see. They haven't talked price yet. We'll see. I want to at least get $1,500 for it, and I think it's quite possible. So we'll see how this goes. Here's the Yazoo Kees right here. All right, so that prospective buyer decided to pass on it. It's just not as nice as he was hoping for. He thought the bearings sounded like they may be going out on the deck, and I can't prove him otherwise. They feel pretty tight, but I understand. They're a little bit noisy. That's his call. So anyway, I want a happy buyer, so I'm certainly not gonna try to push that on him. And he decided he was gonna pass on it, and we'll see if we have anyone else that's interested. All right, a quick update on the Yazoo Kees. I took the armrests off of the seat because they were pretty trashy, and if I took them off, then I would be able to fit a seat cover on here, which I did. So I think this looks a lot more presentable without the armrest and with the seat cover on there. I repictured it, relisted it, I've been waiting for a while and haven't sold it, but it seems like we might have someone that is going to come tonight to look at it. So hopefully it fires up for him and works. That'd be weird to actually get this machine sold. I've had it for sale for so long and there just seems to be such little interest in it. So if you're looking for a low budget commercial mower, you could find something like this one, because I'm probably not going to get a whole lot for it. I'm hopeful to get $1,200 for it, or I'm not going to go below $1,200, but it's listed for $1,500 and it's a really solid heavy duty mower for the price. All right, I got word that the prospective buyer is heading this way. I should be here not too long. So I'll see if I can get a camera set up and we'll see what happens. All right, so I don't know how much you could hear there of our negotiations and conversation. They asked a good question, why it took so long to start.
Do you know why it takes a little long to start at first?
That is something I felt was a little bit lacking, so I said it could be a weak starter or maybe not a big enough battery. I think that's what I said. And second of all, they noticed that there's a little too much noise, they think, when it's running, like there's a bearing that's going out, which is the same thing another person mentioned, so it could be true. Everything feels pretty good to me, but maybe one of the idlers is a little loose. There was one that seemed like it might have been a little loose when we were looking at it together. So they brought up those two things. They did a good job looking over the mower. They asked me what the lowest was I would go.
What's the less you go on it?
And I don't like starting out with the lowest I will go, and I also don't like being dishonest and saying something that is not my lowest if that's what someone asks me. So I responded and said I'd prefer you would make an offer first. They said that they didn't really want to make an offer, and I said, well, we're starting at 15. So that was what I had it listed at. They looked over and then came back and said, okay, would you take $800? I was like, no, I've had several offers for $800. They said, okay, well, what's your bottom dollar?
Now, what's your bottom dollar since we gave you an offer?
So I said $1,200 is my bottom dollar. So then they immediately came back with $1,000 cash. I was like, nope, $1,200 is my bottom dollar. They said, what about $1,100? That way, you know, give them some money to cover getting the new tires and stuff. And I was like, I already told you $1,200 is my bottom dollar. Long story short, they decided that they were going to go think about it. We shook hands, they walked off. I went over to my shop. They came back and said, do you only take cash? And I was like, yeah. And they said, well, if we can get $1,200 from ATM, then we may come back later today. And they're like, we have your phone number. So do I have it sold or not? That's the question. Are they gonna come back later with $1,200 cash? It sounded like they were going to, but then they still weren't quite sure. Anyway, it's kind of fun or not fun haggling with people. I have my code of ethics, which is I don't like to say something that's not true. Other people may not be so inhibited. I don't know. Sometimes what I've phrased things as, instead of just saying, you know, if they ask you your bottom dollar, I could respond and say, such and such is the lowest I'd like to go, or I'd like to get, actually, I like that phrase better. I'd like to get $1,300. If I had said I'd like to get $1,300, then it's possible we could have agreed at 12, which was my true bottom dollar. Anyway, just semantics of bargaining and stuff, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, just wanted to fill you in on what happened. That's where it is for right now. All right, well, I think we're gonna get a sale here. They called me a couple times after they left. The guy said that he was having trouble getting the money transferred over. Then he called me back again later and said that he was able to get the money, so they'll be back with the trailer in like 20-25 minutes from the time he called. So it sounds like we may be selling this mower today for $1,200. Yes, that'd be so great if we can sell it. And they go into it knowing what's wrong with it, because they already pointed out the issues to me. If they don't want to buy it, they don't need to buy it. All right, so that turned out really well. We finally got the Yazoo Kees sold. Let's go over real quick what we spent on this mower and what we sold it for. And I don't really remember, so I am going off of the cuff. So we paid $200 for the mower. We paid like 15 bucks for the football gasket. I can't remember how much it was. We put fuel line on it, that's, you know, another $10, $15. And we put a fuel pump on it, which is also like another $15. So we did not put a ton of money into the mower. We bought the seat cover, that was maybe $30, $20, I can't remember. Oh, we bought a battery too. That was probably the most expensive purchase. I think that was around $30, $35. So we used some used parts on here. We put a different fan in there that was a used fan, a different starter that was a used starter. The tires all held air, so we did not really mess with them too much. We also bought the relays, and I don't remember how much the relays cost. We're gonna say $5 to $10 a piece. There was like 1,000 of them in there. No, I think it was more like 3 or 4 relays in there. $15 for 4 relays, that's like 60 bucks. Let's say $150 on parts, $200 for the mower. So that means we've got $350 into the mower. We sold it for $1,200, so we did not quite make $1,000. We made $850 off of it. So not a stellar profit. I did get to use the mower for a while. I learned some things on it, and we still made $850. It's possible if I had spent a lot more time in trying to pretty it up, and maybe it's not a lot of time. To me, it's a lot of time. It's possible I could have gotten more, but it still is a Yazoo Kees and not an X-Mark at the end of the day. So what would you guys have done if you were in that situation? Would you buy a mower like this one? Would you even try to flip it, or would you keep it for yourself? I think a 42-inch cut was a little narrow for what I wanted long-term, so. Anyway, thank you guys for coming along for this story here at Garage Story. And as always, stay safe out there. Let's keep making stories, and let's go break a wrench. And you might want to check out the previous videos in the series or some other similar videos. Who knows? Take care, guys.